you'll hear me talking kind of slow,
Mhm,
taking a long time to think. And now I'm talking so fast and my thoughts are just flowing.
mhm,
That's because I'm reversing my brain damage
mm,
with stem cell therapy. When you look at my photos and my videos, when you listen to me speak, you can hear that I'm aging in reverse. You can hear that my brain is healing. So I'm applying everything that I'm learning from the experts on my podcast in my own life and in the life of my husband who survived two IED explosions and has his own health challenges. We're reversing our aging and you can see it in my photos. My hair is turning dark brown again because I'm reversing aging. They're
mhm,
asking me, did you have some work done on your face? My face looks 7 years younger. He said,
mhm.
you look younger now than when I met you 7 years ago. It's because I'm implementing everything I'm learning from all of these experts on my podcast.
Hello, everyone out there. This is Michael Yearby, and this is Unfiltered Conversations. I'm with Antoinette, is someone who has truly lived what she teaches. An Army medic turned tech CEO, and started sponsoring outdoor athletics. She rewrote her story after a devastating injury to her left side, which had her using a walker and a service dog. Today, she is a voice of a new normal, big life podcast teaching us how to build a bigger life out of what we think is tragedy and things that we have lost. She's here to share real strategies from resetting your nervous system in nature and being, I would say, your own patient advocate. So we all can learn her and find from her strength, her purpose, and also the adventure of hardship that gets us through situations. Thank you so much, Antoinette, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Just getting right into it with your motto to live strong, explore boldly. What does that phrase mean to you in your daily life?
I love that you asked this question because we have been socialized to think small, to be separated, divided, especially men versus women, and race against race, and economic household income versus someone else's economic status. And there's a lot of division. And it's made our lives smaller and smaller. And with the difficult geopolitical times, economic times, it's also made us retract into our own world, especially after 2020. And I really want people to start thinking of the possibilities, what's available to you, because anything that's available to anyone is available to me. That's my personal philosophy. And I'd really love people to start thinking that way. And here's why: your health depends on it. And if you don't have health, you cannot have wealth because everything in your life requires you to have a certain amount of energy and vitality to accomplish the goals you set out to do. So I want you to think of your life as you can create what you want your new normal to be. So if today you're living through the suck, and many of us have, tomorrow you can have the life you envision, even if you don't know how you're going to afford it or how you're going to get there, what skills you might need, that doesn't matter. But start envisioning what that tomorrow is going to be, because that's your first step towards achieving it. And I want for you to have the biggest life you can dream, not the biggest life you can afford, the biggest life that you have the skill sets for, but the biggest life you can dream.
Mm. You're living on a homestead in Northwoods. How did you end up there, and what role has that environment played in your healing journey?
Well, to talk about that, I have to take you back to the beginning of when I decided I was gonna create my new normal. I was doing all the things that my doctor said I should do, following traditional allopathic or conventional medicine. Take all the therapies, have the 5 surgeries, take all of the pills. At one point, I was on 20 medications, and I was getting sicker and sicker, weaker and weaker, and that's how I ended up going from being a person who rappels down mountains and out of helicopters and off buildings to go carry men on my back. Firemen carry men to safety who outweighed me by 100 pounds, to someone who couldn't unload my own washing machine. My dog had to help me put clothes in the dryer. That's how debilitated I was. And one day I woke up and I was looking down on my body. I could feel that my soul was leaving my body. I was barely breathing. And I didn't yell to my caregiver, "I think I'm dying, take me to the emergency room." I was kind of like, "You know what? I think these are my last hours on earth, and here's what I'm gonna do with it. I'm gonna be in gratitude for the life that God gave me, because I grew up middle class, with upper middle class money. I went to good schools. I had good friends. I saw lots of accomplishments in my life. I've had a good life comparatively. Even though it's being cut short, it was still good, and I was grateful. And so I said, God, thank you for the life you've given me. I'm ready to go be with you. But if you give me one more day, I'm going to figure out why I'm so sick, why I'm tired all the time, why I can barely walk, why I'm struggling to recall words when I speak 4 languages, have traveled the world, have 3 college degrees, and I could barely make sentences. I need to know why that is. I'm going to fix it for myself, and then I'm going to turn around and help other people.
Mhm.
And that has been my mission since the very next morning when I woke up, and for the first time in 18 months, I could get out of the bed on my own.
Wow.
And I've been on a mission to help other people ever since, to reclaim their health and their vitality, and to take back their health.
So, man, take us through that moment. Take us through that time where you talking to God and you're you're grateful. And I don't want to skip over this part because I think it's truly, truly important where you felt like you was facing the end of your life. And most people will talk about the regrets, the sorrows, the things that they didn't do. And you took that moment to be thankful for what you have, and experienced. Where did that mindset come from?
That's a good question. I think that every human being is born with an inherent survival mechanism. What we think of today is our intuition.
Mhm.
But a lot of people, they allow it to be suppressed through socialization, through trauma, through not trusting their own selves. But I never was that person. As a kid, people labeled me as being strong-headed. I wasn't strong-headed. I just knew who I was and didn't allow anyone to change me. And I'll give you an
Mm.
example that's kind of funny. But in my family, I am the outlier. I'm the youngest of 5 children. Both my parents are very, I would say, classy, elegant Black people. And, I'm adopted. I'm Nigerian and Irish. My parents are African American. My parents who raised me are African American, and they're very classy people. They work their ways up from the farms in Virginia and North Carolina, respectively, and they hated that I loved the outdoors. My siblings thought of me as an embarrassment. "Why are you always so sweaty?" "Why are you so dirty all the time? Go change your clothes, take a bath and change your clothes." And it was really hard to be my authentic self, because from 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to live exactly how I'm living right now. And my parents sent me to debutante school from age 15 to 16. Every Sunday of my life after church, I went to go learn how to be a lady. And my mother used to say, "We're going to train the wild out of you." It didn't take, it did not work. But I did learn confidence. I learned how to be a middle class kid that can function in among the wealthy, And
Mhm.
when I became a tech CEO, I did find myself in those communities. So I'm grateful for the experience my parents gave me. But my whole life, I've been struggling to be my authentic self, someone who truly is connected very deeply to nature. And when I went back to both my roots, because my parents grew up on a farm and they sent me to my mom's family farm anytime I was out of school. I did spend some summer, part of the summer at home, but most of the time when I was out of school year round, I went to the farm and helped my uncle on the farm, and I loved it.
Oh,
It's
wow.
where I felt like I belonged. So I think that's where that came from, having a deep sense of self, knowing that I had done my very best to live out my Christian principles and that God was gonna welcome me into heaven was a big part of it. And I know a lot of people today don't have a belief system, but having a belief system, especially during really hard times, gets you through. And so that's why I wasn't afraid to die, because I knew that I was going to be with God and I was going to see my family members that had passed on to the other side. And even though I had a lot more living to do, I was okay with this being it.
Wow. That is a thank you for explaining. That's a wonderful mindset to have. Especially, a lot of times we can be, especially in this, I would say this I want I don't want to use the word microwave generation because I believe in a lot of ways the generation that's taking hold now is a lot smarter than us in some ways, right? But I do believe the detriment of any generation is defined by what like it's defined by a why, and I would say that why in this generation that is basically taken over is social media, and so in a lot of ways they are desensitized and always want, 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 want versus appreciative of what they have now. Because life is curated online. It's just I'm so thankful that you have that mentality and that mindset. Um, who was your biggest mentors and role models growing up? Because you said you love like being outdoors. So who did you look up to?
Well, to be honest, I didn't have any in real life role models that I could look up to, but my oldest brother, who is 14 years older than me, taught me how to read the day after my fourth birthday. And if you're a parent, you're probably saying, there is no way that a kid can learn to read in one day. Well, full disclosure, I have a higher than average IQ. It came easy to me. Feels like it was very natural. And so he taught me how to read the day after my fourth birthday, and then he was already in college, so he sent me college books, and he also sent me other books, so I never read books that were like your first reader books. I didn't read those. I read books that were meant for adults. And so I read a lot of books, like a series of books my brother brought me about the Mountain West, and how people would talk about riding from Denver to Wyoming on railroad business. And I said to myself, I'm going to ride by horseback from Denver to Wyoming on railroad business. And in 2023, I actually did that. I got on a horse. I'm a decent Western dressage rider, so I ride Western style as opposed to English style, and rode on horseback from Loveland, Colorado to Wyoming, and I also rode from Loveland, Colorado into the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So I was on cliff edges that were just wide enough for the horse's hooves, and, cross streams, and it was beautiful. And I got to live out that childhood fantasy of riding this way. And so that's the importance of learning to read and fostering a child's imagination through reading, and then giving them the space as an adult to go off and do those things. So I had that, even though my family tried to keep me away from it because they thought it was too dangerous. But that's the thing that fuels my soul and makes me
Mm,
excited about getting up every day. And when I was using that walker and service dog and a caregiver,
mhm.
it's what made me work so hard to get out of that bed, to get off that walker, to go and do, because I had a purpose, I had passion, and I had people that I could go do it with.
Wow. See, man, that right there is basically a testament of who you are as a person. You don't give up. You know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness, that is amazing. You served as we venture into your past. We talk about your military service. You served no, 11 years, right? 11 years in the US Army as a medic?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I did a lot of jobs in the Army because I learn fast and I get bored easily, and so
Yeah.
whenever there was an opportunity to go to school and no one else wanted to go because the conditions were very hard, like, it might be a school in the dead of winter and nobody wants to go to school in the dead of winter, I would say, "Let me go." So I ended up going to lots of schools, learning a lot of things, and, I really appreciated all that I learned from the military, from my military experience, and I intended to do 20 years, but my injuries, breaking my back and the brain injury kept me from doing 20 years.
What motivated you to join the Army?
Everyone thinks it was my father because my dad and his twin brother served in the Navy during World War II, and then when the Korean conflict kicked off, they again joined up together. They didn't wait to be drafted and served in Korea, and then I later served in Korea. So I wanted to, I don't know, keep up with the family tradition of military service. My parents are very or were very patriotic. They raised us to love our country. And why wouldn't you love your country, even though it has flaws, even though there are things we would love to change about your country, but not loving your country is like not loving yourself. It's like not loving your family.
Yeah.
So, because here's the thing, if I didn't love someone, I wouldn't stay in a relationship with it. If you don't love it, leave, go somewhere else that's gonna make you happy. Don't stay here and make the rest of us who do love it miserable. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And it's crazy that you said you was in the Army and you did so many different jobs. So do you think after leaving the Army and you building a career in IT and tech and eventually becoming a CEO, do you think that was a natural career path for you?
Gosh, I don't know. So when I was in the Army and I was deep in the healthcare field, I did a short stint as an ethical recruiter because I needed to look at myself in the mirror and like who I saw, so I recruited ethically. But, um, I guess technology was really starting to ramp up as I was leaving the Army, and, we were introducing a lot of new tech into medical and dental treatment, and the computer systems were always breaking down. So, being in charge, people look at you, you're part of the staff sergeant mafia, they expect you to get it done, and a lot of times I would just open a manual and say, "Okay, I'm just gonna fix this computer myself because 'cause I'm tired of people complaining about it." And so when the techs would show up to fix the computers, I always had them fixed. So I
Mm.
just walked across the street to the company with the contract and said, "Do you know the person who's always fixing the computers before your techs arrive? That's me. I'm getting out of the Army in 2 weeks. I'd like to have a job with you, and here's why I'll be awesome for this position." And I got the job.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. See, that's pretty
So,
awesome.
anyway, I think that I was predisposed to technology because I love solving problems. And, technology gave me that, especially when I was doing technical repair and installation, and then I sort of just worked my way up through, um, the management track. But when I got to the C-suite, here's what happened and why I'm no longer in technology.
Okay.
So, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching, right? When I got to the C-suite, my peers and bosses said, "You have career limiting honesty. You treat your people too well, you're making other managers look bad." And I said, "This is not the place for me." So I left.
Wow.
I know.
That says a lot. Like, you're too honest? Man. So they
Yes.
wanted you to be ethically compromised. Hmm.
Ethically compromise and not care about the well-being of the people that I managed.
Mm,
And I just couldn't do it. Just couldn't do that.
man. So how was that like? You being in the Army, then you moving into to tech, especially as a Black woman, you know, um, in those fields, to me, and as I explore and talk to people, those fields have not been quite welcoming to Black women or just women of color in general. So, like, How did you navigate those situations? Oh, have you experienced that in those fields?
That's the better question, which is, um, people find this really hard to wrap their minds around because they have been manipulated into thinking
Mhm,
that because I am a woman,
mhm.
that I have been disenfranchised, and because I'm Black,
Yeah.
I have not had all the advantages of everyone else. But let me tell you something, the way that I was raised, I had more advantages than a white kid who is the child of a coal miner living in Appalachia, um, West Virginia, right?
Mhm,
Their parent, on average, only had a 5th grade reading level, only made just above the poverty level,
mhm.
and not everyone, but on average. And so when someone talks to me about someone having white privilege, I get really upset because I had a
Mm,
lot of privilege as a Black kid growing up, and I had
mhm.
a lot of privilege as a Black woman with 3 college degrees. And so when I got into tech, yeah, people were saying things like in the beginning, a pretty girl in tech, who does she have to sleep with to get this job? And they would say it to my face, and the response they would get was, "Say that again, and I'll meet you outside by the car, and we will fight it out like men. And then when you come back in with a black eye, you will have learned your lesson to never talk to me or about me like that again." I nipped that in the bud. I didn't go through that. And then, you know what? Men respected me. They really did, and they didn't mess around.
Yeah.
And, I'm not advocating violence, but I had just got out of the military, and didn't I say that I was part of the staff sergeant mafia? You
Yeah,
mess with
yeah, yeah,
me, and you're
yeah,
gonna have some problems.
yeah.
So, just like in the military, when I was stationed in Korea, I had a very funny story. My KATUSAs, Korean Auxiliary to the United States Army, they are Korean service members who work with the Army, the US Army, and they said, "I can't follow a woman. My father walks 10 steps behind my mother walks 10 steps behind my father. I will lose face if I have a woman leader." And I walked over to the biggest one, kinda like the prison mentality, walked over to the biggest guy and I said, "What did you say?" And he goes, "I can't follow a woman." And as he's in mid-sentence, I squat down, lift him up, threw him over my shoulder and said, "Who else won't follow a woman?" And to be honest, I brought that same mentality into the tech world, and no one disrespected me or gave me
Heck
a
yeah.
hard time.
Heck yeah.
But the other thing that's really rich, I think, is this. Every promotion I ever had that got me from the call center help desk to the C-suite as a tech CEO was because a white man referred me to the hiring manager and said, "I worked with this woman before on a project or a particular company. She's a great employee, does a great job. She would be an asset to our team." And that's how I worked my way up every single time. So when I applied for a job, there was always someone that I had worked with in the past who was a white man who said, "You know what? This woman deserves this position."
Mhm.
But society has manipulated Black women to believe that that would never happen. And I'm telling you, every single one of my promotions was because I showed up prepared and ready to excel and to show my value. And someone said, "I vouch for this person."
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. Man, just, I'll always have being prepared, prevents the 5, the 6 Ps, piss
Piss
poor
poor
performance.
performance.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I say it all the time to my young airmen. I'm like, "Hey, make sure you're prepared. If you're not, then we're just gonna move on without you." And so they always do that. So, oh my goodness, thank you. On your podcast, you emphasize functional medicine and a root cause care. Can you walk us through that mindset when it is, well, I guess when it's a diagnosing issue that people are having physically or mentally when it comes to that?
Yes. So the difference between functional medicine and what's conventional or allopathic medicine. Functional medicine is also allopathic medicine, but it goes deeper to determine your root cause. So, for example, in conventional medicine, when you go to your general practitioner and they send you out to a specialist and they prescribe some kind of therapy, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy or physical therapy, occupational therapy, they recommend some sort of medications, and if that doesn't work, then they want to cut out the organ or do some kind of surgery on your body, right? That's what allopathic medicine is. And what's missing from that equation is, when did they ever try to help you figure out what's causing the problems? They want to manage the symptoms. They want to try to give you tools to manage those symptoms at home. And if that doesn't work, they want to cut on it, but they never find the root cause. In functional medicine, they go the extra step to determine why you have lymphedema and you're gaining weight unexplainably, and your C reactive protein, your inflammation marker, is very high, which could be damaging your organs, which could lead to heart disease, for example. They don't ever look at those causes. And so that's the difference between functional medicine and your general practitioner, how they practice medicine. And so when I was trying to figure out what's wrong with me and how I got here, I decided the first thing that I'm going to do is I have to become my own patient advocate. Even though I had training in anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, infection control, and disease prevention, general dentistry, and advanced emergency battlefield triage
Mhm.
and first aid, I still trusted the MD, because what do they always say to you? "I'm the MD. I'm the one who's been to medical school." And
Eye
I'm like, "You know what?
specialist.
You're right." Right. I haven't been to medical school. I'm not a specialist, so I'm going to ask questions. But in the end, I trusted they had my best interests at heart and that they were truly looking to help me solve why I'm so sick. But that's not healthcare, how healthcare is practiced, unless you use functional medicine, which looks at the root cause, why you're so sick, and treating you holistically, the whole body together, mind, body, spirit together.
That's pretty awesome. No, you also spoke about medical gaslighting and being dismissed by providers. Um, have you had an experience that you can share? And if so, what strategies did you learn or what we can learn to overcome those situations?
Yes, I've had excuse me. I've had 3 experiences that I'd like to share because they're indicative of the times. So I'm very active, and I had some 30 pounds, 40 pounds of unexplained weight gain. Didn't change my diet, didn't change my activity level, but I was gaining weight. I was also extremely tired, having difficulty breathing, and I went to see my general practitioner and then a specialist, a heart specialist, and instead of asking questions related to my heart or related to my symptoms, he looked me in my face and said, "Have you ever considered you might be living in the wrong gender?" And, you know, uh, people at all sizes and weights are still beautiful. And he was gaslighting me for social credit. He wasn't interested in finding out what was wrong with me. He just wanted to use all these fancy buzzwords and phrases that he'd been taught through whatever social agenda. And instead of treating my symptoms or analyzing why I'm so sick, he just gaslit me and said, enjoy being overweight and, be positive about it. And maybe the fact that you're not happy with your weight gain is because you're living in the wrong gender. So that's one example. And I didn't get treatment, and it took me 3 more years to get effective treatment. And the other example is I purchased some ham, I got very sick, I looked up the symptoms, it says you have listeria. A day later, or 2 days later, I went to the doctor, I said, "I think I have listeria, here are the symptoms," and that doctor gaslit me. She said, "Listeria does not happen in the United States." I left thinking, "Okay, maybe I'm wrong." So I'm still suffering with these symptoms.
Uh-huh.
I go home, and 2 days later after that, the store that I purchased, it's a big store, chain of stores, put out a press release that there was listeria in this product. I bought that product. I had the lot number. I go back to my doctor with the proof. Here's my lot number. Here's the product announcement that it contained listeria. Can you treat me? They gaslit me again. I went to specialists. They gaslit me again. They all said listeria does not happen in the United States. Meanwhile, it's in the news all over the place about outbreaks of listeria, right? So because I didn't get treated, I developed a very serious life-threatening condition called listeriosis.
Mm,
And then the
mm,
third incidence of gaslighting, I went into a hospital on an emergency. My primary care physician said, I think your kidneys are failing. I need you to get to the emergency room now. And in the emergency room, I never complained about pain, but I conveyed what my doctor said. They didn't run any tests. All they wanted to do was give me a medication that my electronic record says I'm deathly allergic to, that I communicated when I checked in, that my fiance at the time, now my husband, communicated to them over and over, and 2 doctors and 2 nurses tried to give me that medication, and we were very calm. We thought, "Oh, well, maybe something is happening in the background that we don't know about. They're just making a mistake." I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was intentional. I don't know
mm.
why
Yeah.
that it was intentional, but it felt intentional because we kept calmly communicating, "Hey, I'm allergic to that. You can't give it to me." Then they put 3 armed guards outside my room. We never neither of us got agitated or raised our voice. We were very calm, and we felt like, "Is it safe to leave?" So I finally said, "I have the chief of police on speed dial, saved in my phone, and I'm gonna call him for an escort out of this hospital because I don't feel safe here. So you're either gonna let me leave or I'm gonna have a police escort out of here." And so they just let us leave.
Wow.
And that was gaslighting.
Yeah.
Gaslighting in 3 incidents that could have cost me my life. So you have to be your own patient advocate, and that's why I've done 2 episodes just dedicated to the words to say, the steps to take, who you need to talk to, because I know you have seen, like I have seen, those videos on social media of parents on Facebook Live recording themselves because the hospital was trying to take their 14 or 15-year-old son who had just been hit by a bus just hours ago off life support to donate his organs. And so if you are not your own patient advocate, really bad things can happen. So I found an expert who did give you the language to use and who to talk to and how to escalate it when you are being gaslit, when you're not being taken seriously, and when you feel like your life or someone you love is at risk. Because there are protocols to safeguard against this in hospitals, but when have we as patients ever been taught about those protocols, right? So that's why I wanted to cover this subject.
I'm thankful that you're willing to, because it's like that still, especially in the military still, where they say a certain language you need to utilize when you're talking to your provider, because a lot of times, like, when you're speaking to your provider about something, they think, or they want to give you painkillers, or they think you want them to put you on a waiver. And it's like, no, I'm not asking for any of those. I'm asking, like, why I'm feeling like this. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Can you do some root cause analysis, like what you're stating, and how can we? Because I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be on a waiver. I want to be in shape. I want to do this, and they kind of have their preconceived notion that you're trying to get out of PT, or you don't want to do any type of duty and stuff like that. You want to have limiting duty, and it's like, no, that's not the case. So I thank you for being an advocate and speaking on that, especially on your podcast. That's truly amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And it's also one of the reasons why, or not one of, a big reason for my mission as a podcaster, as a health and wellness columnist in International Magazine and in my own blog and in my speaking career. I want to teach people how to take back their health because you're not going to learn it from your doctor in your 7 to 15-minute doctor's visit. And so even if you don't have a diagnosis, especially when you have complex health challenges where symptoms overlap each other, it's really difficult to find out your various diagnoses, right? But you don't have to have a label because truly a diagnosis is just a label, right? Um, so what you really are looking for is how to treat the symptoms. And I'll give you a quick example of how small changes can make big health improvements. So for example, after I figured out why I had that weight gain, I realized I had chronic widespread inflammation and my lymphatic system was not draining. And so it was holding these lymph fluids in my body. And that can make you very, very sick. It could also damage your organs. And so I naturally raise my glutathione level using light therapy, not a pill, not a surgery, not an injection, but getting my own body to produce glutathione, which would help reduce inflammation in my body. The next thing is I started doing natural detox. I started with a daily lemon water detox that you can make in your kitchen, and it started helping me to drain those fluids out of my body. It kept me hydrated also. And now I add 5 grams of creatine monohydrate, and that is restoring my brain health. If you listen to old segments of or old episodes of my podcast, you'll hear me talking kind of slow, taking a long time to think. And now I'm talking so fast and my thoughts are just flowing. That's because I'm reversing my brain damage with stem cell therapy, not the stem cells that are from aborted embryos, but using my own body's light to activate my own stem cells in a daily patch that costs me less than $100 a month. And if you go to my website, you can learn about how to do that. Even when I began my podcast a year ago, when you look at my photos and my videos, when you listen to me speak, you can hear that I'm aging in reverse. You can hear that my brain is healing. So I'm applying everything that I'm learning from the experts on my podcast in my own life and in the life of my husband who survived 2 IED explosions and has his own health challenges. We're reversing our aging, and you can see it in my photos. Friends have asked me, did you dye your hair? Nope. My hair is turning dark brown again because I'm reversing aging. They're
Mhm.
asking me, did you have some work done on your face? No. My face looks 7 years younger, according to my husband. He said, you look younger now than when I met you 7 years ago. It's because I'm implementing everything I'm learning from all of these experts on my podcast.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, as we close, what is something I haven't asked you you wish people understood about your journey and the work you're doing?
Oh, that's so simple. The thing that's inside me that allowed me to be my own patient advocate, to find answers for myself, and to take back my health lives inside you. We were born with it. I'm not doing anything magical. It's what we had inside our body. It's what God gave us. The plants, the trees give off phytoncides that help to heal our bodies. Have antimicrobial properties. They boost your mood. The foods that come out of the ground that are not brought to you by big ag, they don't have glyphosate that are destroying your immune system or creating a sensitivity to gluten. I was told that I'm gluten sensitive. My husband was told that he had celiacs. We just stopped eating genetically modified wheat, and now we can eat wheat. We were not allergic to gluten or sensitive to gluten. We were allergic to glyphosates. So the point I want to make is that there's nothing special about Antoinette Berrafato. Everything that's inside me lives inside you too. You can take back your health. You just need a few tools and a good friend like your wellness warrior, Antoinette, to help guide you through that. And you can have the health you want. And then when you have the health you want, you can have the life you want. And all that you need to do is just believe that that new normal is possible, that new normal where you are happy and healthy and productive and successful as possible, and then wake up every day and take one more step towards getting there. And it starts with taking back your health.
Well, Antoinette, tell us how to get a hold of you. What are you? How can we support you and what you're doing?
Thank you so much for asking this question because I hate to say this, but I am being shadow banned on social media. I have more than 10,000 followers across platforms, but I am being so shadow banned because I'm talking about taking back your health naturally instead of taking back your health or managing your health through big pharma. And because of it, even people who wake up every morning, go to my X account, NNBL blog, or my Instagram account, New Normal Big Life Podcast, or my TikTok of the same name, or my channel, New Normal Big Life Podcast, or my podcast, New Normal Big Life, they are looking for my content and they're struggling to find me
Mm.
because there are people who are making a lot of money manipulating you, keeping you sad and lonely, and keeping you sick. And they don't want you to hear the answers that I'm dropping every day on social media or every week on my podcast. So if you could go to my social media, go to my podcast, listen on your favorite platform. We are everywhere. Comment, write a review, leave a star rating. I will answer you. And the other thing that I love doing is a lot of my podcast episodes come out of listener questions. Sometimes they want to remain anonymous, but if they don't want to remain anonymous, I give you a shout out in the show. So let me know your biggest health challenges, what you're struggling with, what you can't find answers for, because there's usually a super simple fix. Like if you're struggling with depression or anxiety right now, if you fix your gut with a simple thing like acacia powder, which is a natural substance, if you fix your leaky gut problem, it can fix your mental health problem. So all these simple challenges that you will never hear from your doctor is what I love sharing with people just like you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Antoinette, for this incredible conversation, your incredible journey, and the advice that you gave us. And it reminds us to live a full life that's, I would say, full of possibilities, but also full of challenges and hard situations that we go through because it shapes us, it grows us. And I am so grateful for your time and your insight. Stay strong, everyone. Peace.
Thank you for having me.
Problem.